Have you ever imagined what it would be like if, for a few minutes, everything just stopped? Your heart goes silent, sounds disappear, your body goes dark, ... and your consciousness remains there, awake, observing everything from the outside. That's exactly what happened to me. An ordinary moment became the most incredible turning point in my life. I didn't see a tunnel of light, nor angels, nor deceased relatives waiting for me on the other side. What I saw was even more disturbing. I saw myself, but not as I am now. It was a future version of me, older, more serene, and somehow wiser. What you're about to discover now may surprise you, because this near-death experience didn't just come with mysterious images, but with real, profound advice, and a sense of mission that has never left me. Stay with me until the end, because this story isn't just about dying for a few minutes. It's about what you learn when you see your own existence from another angle. And it all started with a profound emptiness. Do you believe it is possible to find yourself in another dimension, not as a mirror, nor as a memory, but as a real, living presence, with eyes that carry the wisdom of everything that is yet to come during a near-death experience, when consciousness disconnected from the body and everything around me, plunged into an impossible silence? I found myself in a place that was not of this world, neither light nor dark, just calm. And it was there in that space between now and then that he appeared. He was not a stranger, nor a celestial entity. It was me, older, with a deep, calm gaze, as if he had already lived through everything I still feared living. His simple clothes, his face marked by time, and a presence that was as familiar as... It was unsettling. What you are about to discover now may surprise you, because that encounter changed everything. He knew things about me that no one else could know. And then he began to speak. He began to speak with a voice that didn't seem to come from outside, but from within, as if each word vibrated directly into my consciousness. It wasn't a normal conversation. It was as if he knew exactly what I was going through right now. The fears I haven't yet admitted, the choices I avoid making, and even those old pains I hide from everyone. He looked into my eyes with a gentle firmness and said things that seemed to be taken from a future that is yet to happen. And there, in that space where time didn't seem to exist, I felt something different.
Yes.
As if I was finally hearing the truth about myself. If this kind of experience affects you, if any part of this story really touched you, leave here in the comments what caught your attention the most. Maybe you also felt something similar, or know someone who went through something like this. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people with this kind of profound message. So if you believe this content has value, like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot and shows that we should continue sharing stories like this. And in that moment, when everything seemed suspended, he asked me a question that I never imagined I would hear. He didn't seem like a projection nor a dream. He was real. The light around him was soft, with no apparent source, but everything was perfectly illuminated, and there he was, ... or rather, EU. Older, yes, but not tired. There was a serenity I had never seen on my own face. The marked skin, the deep-set eyes, but with such a solid presence that it seemed to hold the answer to all the questions I didn't even know how to ask yet. He wore simple clothes, a light-colored shirt, light pants, barefoot as if time no longer required armor or appearance. The strangest thing was his gaze. That gaze pierced me. And without saying anything, he made me feel like he knew everything. My flaws, my pains, my most hidden memories. I felt ashamed at first, but soon relief came, as if I was, for the first time, in front of someone who truly understood me, someone who had already faced everything I was still trying to avoid. The first thing he said was not advice. It was a simple question, but it broke me inside. Why do you keep running away? At the time, my impulse was to respond to justify myself, but I realized that there was no room for masks there. It was a conversation between versions, between layers of myself, as if he knew exactly where my mind hides when it doesn't want to feel. His voice was firm, but without judgment. He spoke of choices that I had been putting off, decisions that seemed small, but that were shaping the course of my life. It was as if he had access to the backstage of everything, to the exact moments when I could have gone another way, but chose fear, doubt, or simply silence. It wasn't a scolding or a sermon. It was an exchange, but it came from someone who had already experienced the consequences of each step I was yet to take. He spoke about the importance of inner truth, about the power we give to the world when we choose to ignore our own intuition. I felt then that this encounter was not a metaphor, it was an intervention. As if the universe had given me a chance to realign, to see the invisible impact that my actions have on the future I am building without realizing it. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what he revealed right after that wasn't just about me, it was a boodle of us, about what we carry in silence and about what we still have time to transform. He continued to look at me with that calmness that was disconcerting. There was no rush in his words, but there was also no room for distractions. Each sentence he said seemed to pierce through my defenses. You need to stop being afraid of what other people think, he said, almost in a whisper, as if it were not a criticism, but a reminder. I remained silent. It was strange to hear this from myself, from someone who, in theory, had already faced everything I was still avoiding. And then it became clear I was facing a version of myself that had already overcome the traps of comparison. The anxiety of pleasing everyone, the constant weight of not feeling good enough. Life is not just work, it is presence, he continued, looking at me with a light firmness. You are so busy trying to prove something that you have forgotten to truly live. You are surviving, but you are not feeling. It hit me like a silent shock. It was true. How many times had I put off important conversations, failed to say what I felt, or ignored my own intuition for fear of appearing weak, making a mistake, of not being good enough? That version of me held the answers I had always sought elsewhere: gurus, books, promises of quick transformation, and they were there, as if they had always been there. You still have time, he said, and I felt a strange warmth in my chest. It was hope, but mixed with a huge responsibility. It wasn't just about me, it was about the impact my change could have on everything around me. What struck me most was the tone in which he spoke. He wasn't superior. He was human. Like someone who had fallen many times, but understood that falling is also part of the journey. Stop looking for answers outside of yourself, he said. What you need to know is already inside you. You just need to have the courage to listen. At that moment, part of me wanted to stay there forever, listening. But another part already understood that this was not a final destination. It was a turning point. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject. Because what he revealed next wasn't just advice, it was a choice that would change everything from then on. That conversation seemed to have suspended time. It was as if I were between two worlds, in a space where answers came slowly, but with the weight of an absolute truth. After everything he had told me, all the advice that didn't sound like theories, but like revelations experienced firsthand, I felt such a deep peace that, for a moment, I thought that place was my new home. It's nothing hurt, nothing pressured. Me, my mind was clear, my heart serene. It was then that he looked at me more firmly and said something that shook everything. Do you want to continue? Or go back? The question came without drama, without tension, but it carried a weight I had never felt before. It was as if the universe was placing in my hands the final decision of my entire existence up to that point. At that moment, a whirlwind took hold of me. I thought about my family, my mother's face, my children even, the ones I didn't have yet, my friends who had no idea what was happening, my unfinished choices, my unfulfilled promises, even thought about the little things, the smell of coffee in the morning, the sunlight streaming through the window, the silly conversations that fill the silences of the day. The memory of all this ran through me like an electric current, soft, but impossible to ignore. At the same time, there was a corner of my soul that whispered, "You've already found what you needed. Now it's up to you." My future self didn't insist. He just waited, with a look that said, "Be honest." And I understood that this choice wasn't about right or wrong. It was about mission, about impact, about what could still be transformed. An easy decision. Part of me wanted to stay there in that space where everything made sense. But there was something pulling me back, something that still needed to be lived, said, felt. Something that perhaps only I could do. So, without saying a word, I closed my eyes. and in that exact second, I felt like I was falling from a building. A quick, silent, intense fall. But instead of hitting the ground, I opened my eyes and I was back. The white ceiling, the distant sound of machines, the heavy breathing, but something in me had changed forever. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because what happened after my return was as intense as the experience itself and left marks that I could never ignore again. Coming back, it wasn't like waking up from a deep sleep. It was like being reborn into a body that was already mine, but with a completely different consciousness living inside. The first few minutes were confusing, muffled sounds, bright lights, familiar faces all around. But inside, everything had changed. It wasn't about surviving anymore. It was about living with intention. Every detail seemed clearer. The touch of a loved one's hand, the sound of one's own breathing, even the silence between one word and the next. I carried a new calm, but also a quiet urgency, as if I now knew that time really does matter, that how we fill it makes all the difference. In the days that followed, I realized that the change wasn't just in the way I thought, but mainly in the choices I started making. Things that had previously paralyzed me, like fear of failure, need for acceptance, or attachment to control, simply lost their power. It was as if I had left some of those ties where I had come back from. I started reaching out more to the people I loved, saying things that had previously been stuck in my throat. I started listening more, judging less, not because anyone told me to, but because it now made sense. There was a purpose that I couldn't explain, but that became the center of my new mindset. I began to feel a deeper connection with everything, with nature, with time, with encounters, with silence. It was as if I had returned with a heightened sensitivity, able to perceive what had previously gone unnoticed. And, along with this, came a feeling that I can only describe as a mission. Something inside me said, "You came back for a reason." Oh. And even though I didn't know exactly what it was yet, I was absolutely certain that it wasn't by chance. Saying no more firmly, seeking validation, less, caring more about impact than appearance. If I died for a few minutes, it was to wake up for the rest of my life. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because this experience was not an end point, but the beginning of a journey that completely transformed the meaning of being alive. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this content really touched you, and that's why it's worth continuing this exchange. If this type of reflection makes sense to you, subscribe to the channel. That way you can follow each new conversation we bring here. Take the opportunity to leave a simple sentence in the comments just so I know you stayed with me until the end. This message was for me. It really strengthens this community and shows that we are not alone on this journey. And of course, if this video brought you clarity or made you feel something different, leave a like. It helps this content reach other people who also need to hear it. There is a video here on the side that complements this topic in a special way. Click and continue with me there. The conversation is not over yet.